Bank calls to be in order. First item is roll call.
Alderman Bamman.
Present.
Alderman Headley.
Here.
Alderman Stratton.
Here.
Alderman Totten.
Here.
Alderman Coleman. Alderman West.
Here.
Quorum.
Next item is invocation led by Darrell Jones at Crossroads Church, and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Ken Murphy.
All right, let's pray. Lord, we're thankful for the day. We wish it could be warmer, but we're thankful for it anyway. And we're thankful for the opportunity to be here and pray your blessings on the proceedings tonight for sound minds and good discernment and just for the betterment of our community. And we're thankful for it, for the place that we have to live and we have to share in the lives of our friends and neighbors and our family. We ask it and thank you in Jesus' name.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the approval of the agenda.
No changes, Mayor.
All right, no changes, seeing no proclamations, we'll move on to citizens' participation. We ask the citizens come forward to the microphone and podium and give your name and address for the record. Do we have anyone who wishes to address the board this evening? Seeing none, move on to the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move that we accept the consent agenda.
All right, motion from Alderman West to approve the consent agenda. Got a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Totten. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Seeing no previous business, new business, or presentations, move on to public hearings. First public hearing would be for a request for a zone change from R1 single family to R3 multifamily planned unit development for senior housing.
Mayor and members of the board, we have a request for zone change from R1 single family to R3 multifamily planned unit development. With this, a lot of people see R3 multifamily and that kind of sends their minds one way, but what's part of this is a planned unit development, and part of that plan is that it's an age-restricted development, so it's going to be senior-focused. So there will be a minimum age. And the other part of the planned unit development means that when everything's laid out, you actually approve the plans. So you're not just giving a blanket multifamily zoning designation to a piece of land. You're giving it that designation, and then you actually are going through and saying, this building's going to be here, this one's going to be here, this is where the road's going to go. So you kind of do everything all at once. But on this particular development, it will consist of 12 residential structures and an office building that's kind of like a clubhouse kind of a setup. It's a mixture of 1 and 2 bedroom units, as I said, designed to accommodate senior population in Green Valley. And one good thing with this, we kind of have a model similar that's already here and is successful, and that's Blue Branch Manor off of Eagles Parkway in Menor. It's going to be very similar to that, and so this will be all under one ownership. It's not going to be like apartment units, and the applicant and developer, Mr. Wolf, is in attendance with us, and I believe he would be happy to answer any questions that you have when the time is right, and I think he also has a couple more exhibits that he would like to present.
Where is this located?
So this is at basically just east of the airport, just in between Walnut and Yenny. It's where the old White House used to sit, right at the northeast corner of Walnut and E. Kirby.
Behind the house.
So there's single-family homes on Walnut now. So it's going to be behind that all the way to Yenny. So it is bordered. You've got Bristol Park on the other side of Yenny, which is multifamily, and then to the east, there's multifamily as well. So it does fit with the surrounding zoning.
What is the minimum age?
What's that?
What's the minimum age to reside here? 55.
They do have a site plan, yes. Mhm.
Love these right here.
We apologize,
That's all right.
I'll be the easel.
I saw you just got this today, didn't you? Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're gonna have two different floor plans, one for a one-bedroom unit, so it'd be 4 one-bedroom units under one roof, and then one for the 2 bedrooms. But what we've done is we've hired an architect to do several different elevations for each floor plan, so that each building can look just a little bit different, and not just 12 identical buildings that are gonna be out there, they all have some decks as well. So this is kind of what we've come up with so far as colors and design style. We finalized the floor plan, so this is pretty much the final stages here. Clubhouse, these are the one that
I said I wouldn't do the van wave, but I'm holding both sides.
these are the 2 bedrooms, so kind of similar architectural style, and same thing, 3 different elevations for different buildings. And this will be the courthouse here, 1,800 square foot unit building. It is designed with a basement, but it's rated as storm shelter, with access to both the inside and the outside.
Mayor and Board, one other thing I would add, when you look at that site plan, the roads that go through there, will be private. Those will not be city maintained. So the only thing we'll be maintaining is the utility lines, so the sewer and water lines.
They're gonna have a gate, a fence type thing around it?
We're just growing it right now and putting trees and bushes. I think we're asking for a fence to wall off.
Okay.
What's your anticipated rents, or do you have that, or is that far down the road yet?
Yeah, anywhere from 8 to 1,100 a month, depending on the setup. And right now, we're planning it to include both water and trash, and sewer, including the rent. And of course, an initial value, so all of
They got washer and dryer?
Well, I hooked up, I'm debating whether we can put the actual units in there.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to be able to provide that, but.
Oh, I understand. You do know,
you show it here, but.
I should, yeah, the hookups, not a recipe pump.
you do know they got a wild woman that's over there for neighborhood watch.
Okay.
You do know that there's a wild woman that's over in that area for neighborhood watch.
Good.
Well,
Good.
the community building would be perfect.
Okay. I always tell them, I come knocking. But I'm looking forward to this.
Anyone on the board have any additional questions?
One of our communities, I got a little bit of feedback that, just the lack of sidewalks. You know,
Yeah.
it's down Eagle Parkway, and that's a whole other matter, I understand, but does this have good access for ambulatory residents and things
Yeah,
like
and
that?
actually, you didn't mention, but I have to redo any street with sidewalk along the street, so we're widening the street, put a public sidewalk in there.
Yeah, so as with any new development, we require half road improvements. So right now, Yenny is just open ditch all the way through. And as that area redevelops, we require those road improvements to be made. And so to the extent of his property, those road improvements will be made. And there's already, when the city did the downtown improvements on Kirby and Walnut, and we installed curb and gutter, we installed the sidewalk too. So that borders it. And I believe there is a trail of sorts planned throughout the property there.
There's a lot of sidewalks going around to, so we border on 3 sides with public sidewalk, and then the sidewalk down Walnut goes all the way to the main street.
Mhm.
Probably have to switch sides at some point. And then, I'd like to see we build a walking bridge over 40 Highway. That would be great, and then they can just walk up
We'll talk about that in budget.
Just one question? As this is a public hearing, I'll open it up for public comment for those who wish to speak for or against the project. They may come forward to the microphone and podium and please give your name and address for the record. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak on this project? All right, seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing. Next public hearing we have scheduled for tonight is a request for conditional use permit, operation of a convenience storage facility.
Mayor and members of the board, if you remember a couple of months ago, you had a rezoning request that came before you, and it was kind of the first step necessary to get to this point to request a conditional use permit. If you remember, per code, the only zoning districts that allow convenience storage are M1 light industrial and then C3, which is a commercial district. So the applicant, Mr. Reisinger, came before Planning and Zoning Commission and the board to request that zone change to C3, and that zone change was granted. After that, Mr. Reisinger applied for a conditional use permit for convenience storage. So that public hearing was held at the Planning and Zoning Commission level, and their recommendation was for approval. Their one caveat was they wanted to see the hours of operation or access limited, which Mr. Reisinger has made that change. But basically what you're looking at there is that if you look at the site plan, and then he's got the renderings of what it looks like. This, at full build-out, will cover the empty lot that you can see in the aerial, as well as the current bar facility, and then there's a couple of parcels that are landlocked in between Eagles Parkway and the houses on Broadway. But the first phase will be basically the empty lots that you see there along Eagles Parkway. One thing I would like to bring your attention to is the letter. It's Eagle Convenience Storage at the top, and it is basically the applicant's attempt at addressing all of the concerns that were brought up during the zone change process, as well as what is required by code. So it lists everything from hours of operation, the security cameras, lights that he's going to use, landscaping, signage, exterior elevations, pretty much kind of a layout of exactly what he plans to do. And he is here tonight with his engineer for the project, so I'm sure he will be able to answer any questions that you had.
Anyone have any questions? Anything you'd like to add? Good. All right. It's fine. As this is a public hearing, I'll open it up for public comment for or against the proposed storage facility. Please come forward to the podium and microphone and give your name and address for the record. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak on this evening? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and we'll move on to ordinances.
Mr. Mayor, Bill B. 1818, first reading, an ordinance changing the zoning for certain land in Green Valley from R1 single family to R3 multifamily land unit development. First reading, Bill B. 1818.
Mayor, I move we accept Bill 18-18 for its first reading, bring it back by title only.
Okay. I have a motion from Alderman Haley to approve Bill B 18-18 for its first reading, bring it back by title only for its second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Totten. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
5-0, Mayor, Holman absent. Bill B. 1819, first reading, an ordinance approving a conditional use permit for a convenience storage facility, Chad Rising. First reading, Bill B. 1819.
Mayor, I move we We accept Bill 18-19 for its first reading, bring it back for its second reading by title only.
I have a motion from Alderman Headley to approve Bill B 18-19 for its first reading, bring it back by title only for its second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman West. Any discussion?
What are the hours on that gonna be?
6 AM to 10 PM.
Okay,
I got it, 6 to 12 PM, and then most of them are 24 hours, so I'm
right,
restricted down.
okay.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, same sign.
5-0, Coleman absent. Bill B 18-20, first reading. An ordinance calling election in the city of Green Valley, Missouri on April 2, 2019. Bill B 18-20, first reading.
Mayor, I move we accept Bill 18-20 for its first reading, bring it back for second reading by title only.
I have a motion from Alderman Headley to approve Bill B 18-20 for its first reading, bring it back by title only for its second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Bammon. Any discussion?
Mayor, members of the board, this is just a requirement, to give notice of that, election in April.
Discussion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
5-0, Coleman absent. Bill B 18-21, first reading. An ordinance approving the sale of certain real property in Green Valley, Missouri to L&L Development LLC, and authorizing the city administrator to execute all necessary documents required to effectuate and close said transaction. First reading, Bill B 18-21.
Mayor, I move that we accept bill number B 18-21 for its first reading and bring it back for its second reading by title only.
I have a motion from Alderman Bammon to approve Bill B 18-21 for its first reading, bring it back by title only for its second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Headley. Any discussion?
Mayor, members of the board, if you remember back to, might have even been the end of last year or the start of this year, as we discussed what to do with that approximate 16 acres of land that was left over from the Snybar purchase. We had agreed that single-family residential would probably be the best fit, considering that's what would border it on three sides, and then the the land that can't be built on to the north. With that, in the spring, the city issued an RFP for purchase and the development of that land into single-family homes. We did receive 2 bids back. The L&L bid that you have in front of you was the highest. One of the reasons it's taken a while to get to this point was working through some wetland issues on the property. It was not the easiest piece to develop on. So after working through that with the winning bidder, we came to an agreement on $320,000 for that approximate 16 acres. And so here we are. You can see on the aerial just kind of a general layout of what they would do, and basically that mirrors what was originally looked at for one of the phases of Snybar Farms back in the probably early mid-2000s, before the downturn. But with the downturn, that's one of the phases that kind of went by the wayside and eventually went back to a bank. But so we felt good with that that winning bid, so we're recommending to move forward.
They're not tearing down that house or nothing, are they?
What's that?
They're not going to tear down the big house or nothing, are they?
No, so this is not that. So this is to the west of that. This is just empty land right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
5-0, Coleman absent. Bill B 18-22, it's on the agenda for 2 readings tonight. ordinance by the Board of Alderman, City of Green Valley, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to amend the 2018 GO Bond Downtown Improvements Fund to reflect interest payments and all Main Street project refunds. First reading, Bill B 18-22.
Mayor, I move that we accept Bill B 18-22 for its first reading and bring it back for its second reading by title only.
I have a motion from Alderman West to approve Bill B 18-22 for its first reading, bring it back by title only for its second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Totten. Any discussion?
Mayor and members of the board, turn it over to Rick Arroyo to give you an overview of this.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. What this is we had a GO bond fund for the downtown improvement projects, and earlier this year we had a refund from MoDOT from some of that project. Best from what I understand, that refund came for when the project ended. There were some liquidated damages, so we ended up getting a refund for part of that. Excuse me. And so that was like $10,200, and during that time frame, the money that was in that particular bond fund has earned interest in the amount of $3,454. And so those monies were in the revenue line item of this particular fund. And what this ordinance is asking for is to move it into the expenditure line item, so we can actually spend that and spend down that GO bond fund, which I think Kathy can actually probably elaborate a little bit more as to why we need to make sure that bond fund is spent entirely this year. But we're asking for 2 reads because we would like to use that to pay for a part of the cost for the striping for Eagles Parkway for this year. And so that project or that striping work is intended to start this Thursday. So we'd like to be able to use that fund, those monies, to pay for that when that invoice comes in. So, if you have any other questions.
Any questions? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
5-0, first reading. Second reading, Bill B 18-22, will be ordinance 2445. It is an ordinance by the Board of Alderman, City of Green Valley, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to amend the 2018 general obligation bond downtown improvements fund to reflect interest payments and all Main Street project refunds. Second reading is the ordinance 2445.
Mayor, I move that we accept Bill B 18-22 for its second reading, making an ordinance number 2445.
I have a motion from Alderman West to approve Bill B 18-22 for its first reading, making an ordinance, for its second reading, making an ordinance 2445. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Totten. Discussion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
West,
Yes.
Stratton,
Yes.
Totten,
Yes.
Headley,
Yes.
Salmon,
Yes.
5-0, Mayor. Resolution R 18-45 is a resolution by the Board of Aldermen, City of Green Valley, Missouri, authorizing the installation of 8 new streetlights in the Woodbury 5th Plat subdivision. Resolution R 18-45.
I move that we accept resolution number R 1845 as read.
I have a motion from Alderman Totten to approve resolution R 18-45. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Headley. Any discussion?
Mayor and members of the board, this is authorizing the streetlights for the newer phase of Woodbury. So it's per plan.
Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
5-0, Mayor.
Next item is city attorney's reports.
Nothing to report, Your Honor, thank you.
Next item is city administrator and staff reports.
We'll start with Shannon Davies.
Mayor and Board, I just wanted to remind everyone of our annual marriage tree lighting and holiday event coming up Thursday, November 29th, so it's 1 week after Thanksgiving, in Armstrong Park. It starts at 6 o'clock. This is again, one of our bigger events. It's an annual event that really focuses on bringing the community together. And I know a lot of you have been out before and have helped with the event. I know if anybody is interested in volunteering to help out, to give Sarah Netto a call or an email. She's looking for assistance. But there's no obligation to help. Just ask that you please come out and enjoy the evening. Again, it's Thursday, November 29th at Armstrong Park, and it starts at 6 o'clock.
Chief Hill?
Mayor Boyd, Alderman, just wanted to inform you that we'll be holding our Citizens Academy, in January the 8th to March 5th, 2018. Be held on Tuesday evening from 6 to 9 p.m.
Tuesday what?
Tuesday evening, 6 to 9 p.m.
Okay.
Ms. Osenball?
I just wanted to remind everyone that our next budget workshop will be this Thursday, the 15th at 6 o'clock.
And the only other thing we had was if you are bowling in the fundraiser on Sunday, just a reminder, it's from, I believe, 2 to 5 at Lunar Bowl for the Purple Peace Foundation. And that is all the comments we have.
Next up is Board of Alderman reports and comments. Alderman Stratton.
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Totten.
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Headley.
Nothing at this time.
Alderman West.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Alderman Bammon.
No report, Mayor.
All right, next up is the mayor's report. I have no report this evening. And unless someone has a need for an executive session. All right. We will adjourn then until 8 o'clock when we're back. And call this workshop to order. First item is roll call.
Alderman Bammon.
Here.
Alderman Coleman. Alderman Headley.
Here.
Alderman Stratton. Here. Alderman Totten. Here. Alderman West.
Here.
Quorum.
Next item on the agenda is presentation, the compensation study from Julie Uriel from Springstead.
Okay, good evening. I am Julie Uriel from Springstead, and I'm pleased to be with you this evening. Here to talk about the compensation and classification study that I've been working on with the City of Green Valley for the past 6 months or so. I do have a proposed plan to go through with you here tonight. And wanted to start with some of the objectives that we had for the study. So to begin with, we took a look at the city's current pay plan, looked at what is working well with that pay plan, maybe some of the challenges that you're having, as we seek to improve it moving forward. So in the process, we also wanted to review job descriptions for statutory compliance, particularly with the FLSA and the ADA, and also create opportunities for participation and feedback for staff, for the employees. We wanted to make sure that the new plan reflects external market conditions. What do similar employers pay for positions such as this? Because you do compete for employees with other entities, and it's been a while since the city has done a market comparison such as this. A key goal in the study was to make sure that the compensation relationships between city positions are fair and equitable, and establish the relative value of positions using a quantifiable objective process. As a third-party review, we do work to ensure that we consider the process professionally, consistently, and objectively with regard to all positions in the organization. And then our final objective was to obviously create a compensation system that has a sound foundation, administrative guidelines, and something that is easy to maintain moving forward into the future for the city. So a little bit about our methodology. The process began with a meeting with the city administrator and department heads. We do this to gain some insight into staffing and turnover issues at the organization, talk about what the long-term recruitment needs are moving forward, as well as any current recruitment challenges that the city is encountering with particular positions. Then we conducted an employee orientation meeting, or I think a couple of them, where we explained the goals and the process that we would be working through in the study. And employees told us about their jobs using a PAQ, what's called a Position Analysis Questionnaire. It goes through some detailed questions and allows us to learn directly from the employee what their job is about. So in essence, it is a data collection instrument that enables the internal job evaluation process based upon job requirements. So using the PAQs, we performed, again, that compliance review of the job classes. In one or two cases, we did notice that the duties of a position or two were conducive to a changed title. So we did suggest a change to the title in those cases. So there are several more methodology points covered on this slide, and we will cover these in the course of the next several as we go through. One of our objectives was to make sure that the new plan is competitive with the market, and as such, the next step involved an analysis of labor market compensation and benefit information from cities with similar positions. So, the survey field is shown here, and this lists the organizations that were deemed to be benchmarks or competitors with the city of Green Valley for employees in the labor market. In this process, we utilized wage and benefit data received as a result either of other Missouri studies that we have recently conducted with entities in the survey field list, or for some of these entities, we did need to do direct outreach and ask them for their data because we didn't have it. For the most part, we did get a good volume of data from the survey field, with the exception of two organizations. The City of Liberty did not respond to our survey, and the City of Edgerton, Kansas, they were actually going through a study of their own, and their new data wasn't yet available at the time we needed to move this city forward. And what we found is that the City of Green Valley salary ranges are below the market on average. Specifically, Green Valley minimum salaries are 15.87% below market average minimums. Average midpoint salaries are 19.07% below market averages, and maximum salaries here are 21.49% below market averages. So I think as we're all keenly aware, shifting workforce dynamics in the foreseeable future will continue to increase competition for talent, making the importance and the urgency of a competitive pay plan self-evident. So as we analyzed the market data, we entered the PAQ information into our SAFE system to perform the job evaluation process. And the SAFE system looks at 9 job evaluation factors in order to discern internal relationships between job classes in an organization. It is a system that has been tested in federal court in the context of an EEOC claim and found to be an equitable method of job evaluation. The Safe Job Evaluation System looks at factors such as level of work, job complexity, working conditions, minimum education and experience required, level of impact and responsibility, and some other factors. So once we had the Safe Job Evaluation scoring completed and the survey data analyzed, we linked it together using a valid and reliable means of analysis. Specifically, linear regression. So as a result of that process, we do have a salary curve that compares the survey compensation midpoints of each position in the organization to the safe job evaluation that was performed on the position. So the positions with survey data are reflected as dots on or around this compensation or the salary curve. An R-squared factor of 1.0 would be considered a perfect correlation between the two variables, the survey midpoint and the safe job evaluation score. And this R-squared factor resulted in 0.9947, so it does indicate a very high degree of validity with the job evaluation process that was performed. I will say that 8 out of the 47 positions surveyed did not have enough market data returned, or the data that was returned was deemed not a valid match to the position at Green Valley. So for those 8 positions, they fall onto the pay plan based upon the internal job evaluation only. So at this point in the process, we have enough information to create the proposed 2019 full-time pay plan. And I do have this divided into 2 slides so that it's somewhat readable, although it is still a little bit small. This is an open range structure. It's consistent with your current scale and represents what is used by most of the benchmark organizations in the survey field. So the market comparison did indicate an average range spread of 40% and a 6% differential between grades. So those are the variables that we used here, along with a starting midpoint of 24,932. There are 29 grades in the full-time pay plan, and I'll show you the rest of it on this next slide. So here we have grades 16 through 29, which is the last grade. There are some grades that do not have job classes assigned. We've got classes assigned to grades 7 through 28 in the full-time plan. The first 6 grades and then grade 29 are available in the event the organization adds positions that need to be accommodated in lower or higher grades. The city does have several part-time positions that are, what we did was we placed these in a scale that's been prorated to 75% of the full-time scale. And we know that Proposition B, a gradual minimum wage increase, was passed on the 6th of the month. And that, in essence, increases on an annual basis the minimum wage to $12 an hour over the course of several years. So the interesting piece of that is government employers are exempted from Proposition B, but I would suggest that you may wish to implement the 2019 Proposition B minimum of $8.60 per hour as you consider your future pay philosophy and whether you want to continue matching Proposition B minimum each year until it reaches $12 an hour. And so this is, in essence, what the part-time plan would look like if you do, in fact, embrace the Proposition B alternative. And you do want to keep in mind that the city will increasingly compete for talent not only with public sector employers, but also private sector employers, because the availability of workforce candidates, that pipeline is narrowing as we move into the future. In the case of both part-time and full-time employees, placement on the range and movement within the range over time is a function of your pay philosophy. And this might consider such variables as tenure, length of service with the organization, cost of living adjustments, economic conditions, and ideally performance is a key aspect of that. So we have seen that the average market adjustment moving into 2019 is about 2.6%. that most of the benchmark entities are looking at applying in early 2019. So that is the cost of living adjustment that we have applied to this pay plan. Okay, position assignment. We also call this a title and grade summary. So this shows the proposed grade for each position at the city, and it is separated between full-time and part-time positions. So on this slide, we've got the first 16 grades of the full-time plan reflected in the grades that they are proposed to fall into. Here is grade 17 through 28 of the full-time plan. And we've got the part-time plan divided out here. So grades 2 through 10 is where those positions reside. So moving into the implementation recommendations. We have a couple of them here for your consideration. The first is a 2019 full implementation with a cost of living increase. Okay, so this is just full-time staff that's included in this cost analysis. It does not include the police positions that are eligible for union representation. So in this option, and again, I'm looking at the top grid, all employees with a current pay rate below the minimum of the proposed grade on the new 2018 scale, 2019 scale, are brought 100% to the minimum of their proposed grade, and they're allotted a 2.6% cost of living increase. Those with a current rate of pay within their proposed grade get the 2.6% cost of living adjustment. So the total cost there under that option is $72,427. These numbers do include current vacancies. So if we take the vacant positions out, adjustments to those positions, it brings that impact total down to $63,218. The second option is what we call a midpoint adjustment with cost of living increase. The second grid here, and the goal here is to alleviate compression by moving longer tenured employees further into the range so that they are making more than new hires. And in this case, performance is assumed to be satisfactory. In this option, all those with 6 years of tenure or more move to the midpoint of the recommended scale or receive a 2.6% cost of living adjustment, whichever is more. Those below the minimum of their proposed grade with 5 years of tenure or less move to the, are brought 100% to the minimum, plus receive a 2.6% cost of living increase. And then that leaves those with 5 years or tenure or less who are within their proposed grade as far as their current pay rate. And this awards them a 2.6% cost of living adjustment. So the total impact of the second option is $120,814. If we take the vacant position impact out, then the total adjusts to $111,604. Okay. And then the final slide is a benefits comparison. We did survey benefits at the in the survey field, those entities in the survey field, because benefits are part of total compensation. They can add up to quite a large amount of money when you're adding in health care premiums and dental premiums and so forth. So those can be sizable. Overall, we found that the total city dollar contributions toward premiums to be relatively consistent with the market, with the exception of health and dental premium contribution, which was slightly higher than the average contribution among the survey field. So that wraps up my overview. What questions do you have for me?
Can you go back to what the full number is with vacancies baked into it on the first option? Just for my notes, please.
Sure.
With the vacancies included,
It's $72,427.
And Alderman Headley, that is without the positions lower than captain on the PD side, or eligible for union.
Who actually selected the survey field? Because I don't know how we're comparable to Blue Spring, Independence, Lee Summit. We don't compare with them, those cities at all.
you do compete for employees with
Pardon
the
me?
cities. You do compete for employees with those cities. So that was the reason we factored in those cities. Having said that, perhaps not every data point was used from those cities because you can't necessarily equate finance director at Independence with a finance director at Green Valley because the breadth of responsibility is dependent upon how large that organization is. But as I said, it is important moving forward into the future to be competitive, even with those larger organizations.
These larger cities have a budget which is much larger than Green Valley's budget, much larger. And they have more avenues that they can go down versus Green Valley and what we can do here. I I think most of these cities that we're being compared with, there's no comparison between Green Valley and these cities. That's my opinion.
Any questions?
I have a few questions. So among things that were considered as compensation, I might be of the opinion that Green Valley, and there's, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I think we allow quite a number of our cars, our city vehicles to go home with employees every night. Was the cost or the value of a take-home vehicle also included in your comparisons and calculations?
No, because developing this pay plan was for base wages only.
Okay.
We did survey for additional benefits like, is there a company vehicle and that type of thing. That's in some of the more detailed reports that we've provided with Kalila and Ken. But as far as developing the base compensation plan, that was not factored in.
Did you also happen to evaluate I know you talked about the benefits that we offer, but did you compare benefits that are offered by Green Valley with the other communities in terms of costs and that sort of thing to draw any kind of contrast or comparison on the benefit side of this, or was it just salary only?
No, we did survey comprehensively for benefits, which is the slide.
Mm-hmm.
Time off, city contribution to premiums is something that we focused on heavily. We do also have information for the total premium amount per month per health plan structure. And, that's not so dependent on organization size as it is on the organization experience rating. So I don't know that there's it's necessarily constructive to compare how much a total single premium for health costs between another entity and the city. I think that it is very constructive to compare what the city contributes compared to other cities.
I mean, it looks like what we're doing benefits-wise is pretty comparable.
It is, very.
So if we implement one or the other of these plans, you talked about developing guidelines for the staff to do the implementation. How long does that, how detailed of a process is that? And are there options to discuss what happens when we run into an issue where there's some unexpected salary compression, or we run into issues similar to that?
Sure. There is an approach that we could take that basically divides the pay plan up more into percentiles. So a little bit of a variation on the second option, where we could move staff based upon tenure to, say, a 25th percentile or a 75th percentile versus just that one mark of the midpoint. And, that would be kind of a more detailed approach in addressing the compression issue. And that would impact the implementation costs.
So when cities embrace what they've been presented in a case like this, and they may move in a direction to implement these kinds of changes, are they done? What's been your experience? Do they do it all at one shot? Do they do it in phases over a couple of different budget years? What do you typically see there?
It really all depends on what the budget will allow for, and then also the number. If it's a really high number, then it's more likely to be phased in, which is still something that we could do, particularly for the second option, which is the higher cost option. That is something that we could phase in instead of doing an all-at-once approach.
If you look at the new minimum wage, and you mentioned that just briefly a while ago, the new minimum wage is actually being phased in over a 5-year period of time. That's this proposal. And what you're recommending, or one of the recommendations, is an all at one time, which is significantly different. That's one thing. The other issue that I have, compensation consists of two things, and they really should be looked at together. One is salary, which you have. That's what this whole thing is nothing but salary. The other is benefits, and benefits represents a significant part, particularly in Green Valley, with the budget that we have. I mean, we're looking at a benefit thing at 32.408%, based on what you're recommending, the increase in salaries that you're recommending. We've gone, over the years, we've gone from 29% up now to 32%. We talk very little about benefits, but that is a major component of the compensation for our employees. So, I'm concerned when we're just looking at one aspect and not even considering the other and what it's doing to benefits. And the percentage of the budget, over 1/3 of our budget is employee salaries. And that number is not the $147,000 that you were talking about, but employee benefits, salaries and benefits is $4,496,496,496. That's salaries and benefits. That's significantly different. I mean, we're given an impression that we're paying $146,000 for wages or whatever salary. But when you look at the whole thing, that's more than 1/3 of the budget for Green Valley.
Can I add my thoughts to that?
You can ask a question. I don't know if I have an answer.
Well, I just wanted to clarify that as far as the Proposition B, all we're proposing is just that 2019 increase that Proposition B calls for, which is to $8.60. So it's not an all at once to $12. So if I understood your comment correctly, it's just moving anyone below $8.60 an hour to $8.60 an hour. As far as the benefits go, we touched on the fact that, yes, that is a major part of total compensation.
But you didn't show any numbers, basically, on the benefits.
We didn't show numbers because we didn't gather total numbers as far as what's the dollar value attributed to each employee here at Green Valley. I know that Kalila has that information. But what we were interested in finding out from, I think, a more general standpoint is the benefit package at Green Valley, i.e., the amount of money contributed via benefit premiums, significantly higher than what is contributed at other organizations. And what we found is that the difference in the percentage contributed here versus other organizations isn't that significant. It's maybe 5 to 10% more than what other organizations would contribute. So, for example, on a premium that is a $1,500 a month health premium, you might have Green Valley contributing 80% of that versus the average being 73% contributed. So I think that looking at that is important. Asking ourselves, is the benefit package here at Green Valley so much richer than the survey field where it merits adjusting the proposed midpoint of the pay plan down in order to offset the richness of the benefit plan? And I don't see a significant enough difference in the percentage of premium paid here at Green Valley versus the average to merit adjusting that midpoint away from 100% of the market midpoint. I understand that your point, but those are my
concern is
thoughts.
that we're not showing the whole picture. That's my concern. Is that we're being compared with cities that we really don't compare budget-wise. These budgets on the cities, some of the cities you have listed here are 2 or 3 times what Green Valley's is. And when we have 1/3 of our budget going for employee compensation, that's significant, where Blue Springs has 10% of their budget going toward compensation. And I don't know how we can compare salaries and not look at benefits at the same time, because benefits is a significant part of our budget here. That's my concern.
Do you have anything else?
I have maybe one last question. So after cities consider this kind of information and maybe they move in a direction of implementation of some portion of what's recommended, does it just get done? Is it done under a reorganization of sorts? Do you understand what I mean by that? I'm not trying to explain it if I don't have to, but is it just given as a gift, or is it used as a tool to really, what it's intended for, to attract and retain the very best employees that we can for our city?
That's exactly the intent, is to attract talent, to retain talent. Nothing about this it has an underlying reorganization agenda.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay, one thing I would add, Mayor and Board, kind of what Ms. Rowe was talking about. And when you look at the comparison cities, you can just look at population, you look at budget. I mean, that's true that it's different, but it's also true that if we have 10 police officers, they might have 30. I mean, there's more cost there. And at the end of the day, any of the supervisors or department heads that are going through the hiring process knows when we put out a job opening for whether it's a city engineer or a police officer, we're trying to get the same people that a police officer is trying to get, or any of these cities that are on there. So, I mean, I think that's important to keep in mind as we look at these things. And there, in what they did, there is, it's not just we're matching what Blue Springs has or anything like that. When they're coming up with those numbers, it has to do with number of people being supervised, kind of specific things to the actual job that we're asking our people to do. So it's not just, you know, like, so-and-so in Independence makes this much money, so that's gonna be our point. There's more to it than that.
I'm not trying to sound negative, but a job in Green Valley is a lot different than the jobs in Independence and other places.
I disagree.
I mean,
Nancy, do you mean in the context of maybe the inherent risks in the job?
Right.
Or you think Green Valley is less risky than communities that are compared in this study?
well, I'm very proud to say that we have a force out there that does present itself, but I don't find us having shootings and burglaries unless you're all keeping it quite quiet that you hear about from Independence. But that does, I mean, they're risking their life, and I understand that. But I'd like to look over, are you wanting an answer tonight?
No, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
the point of tonight's a presentation, but I would go back on the police side of it. Anybody that's eligible to be union represented, that's gonna be a whole nother discussion, yeah.
It's also,
We're going to the union now?
so that's the whole different discussion.
Question, I think.
That won't be part of this.
I think it has
That
to
part
do
is
with-
not included in the numbers you're seeing tonight.
Who wants the union? You should have police department.
I think
Oh, I heard that.
All right.
But,
I just wanna understand what you guys are doing.
so, I mean, I think where we're going with this is, you know, we have the budget workshop Thursday night. At that point, you know, kind of mold over to then, because we'll need more direction Thursday night as to which way you kind of want to go on this, where we have nice, you know what numbers to start plugging in the budget, because those will affect other
Yeah.
possible.
I mean, I think the other thing, if there's something that you would like to see, clarification on or more detail, we could try to work, before that meeting, to have that at that workshop. So,
Well, this here budget, that we're working on, it's not just the police department, I mean, it's all city
the
employees.
entire
Yes,
city,
it's already
yeah.
Okay.
Ken, I think in the last meeting we talked, and Alderman West asked about we'll call it the upcharge for benefits, right? The difference for the benefits for all employees. And whether we go with good, better, best options here, what is that incremental cost to the benefits package to look at the whole picture and have those numbers available? I don't know. I know we've seen those numbers before, side by side.
Yeah, and so when we've given those numbers, we give an average. One thing to keep in mind too, when you start talking about salaries, like health insurance, it's a fixed cost, so whether you make $30,000 or you make 90, that cost is the same, so that side of the that percentage changes.
But
That's not the same with some other things.
Loggers and
Yeah,
all
and
that
so
other
what we've
stuff.
done is just, we take a total, like, this is how much we pay in salary, this is how much we pay in benefits, and we're getting that number to you.
But it'd be nice to see, you know,
On
what the incremental benefit cost would be, assuming there is something, of significance there, on top of what each of these options would be.
Like if that percentage changes, or whatever the
Well, I mean,
$100,000 increase.
if you've got $120,000 difference for the second option here, is there a 2% addition to that we have to account for all the benefits? You know, and I understand it's gonna be just an incremental cost over what we're already paying anyway. And then one other thing I wanna add relative to the benefits, and there are several folks that are new on the board. We spent a lot of time in the past mulling over all these same things, and we, you know, there were many times we couldn't afford even the cost of living increase, and there were active decisions made to improve the benefits as best we could. And I think last year we hit our mark as far as at least getting everything even as we saw it at that point with the numbers.
Yeah, I think we had an increase last year. In that percentage that we paid to the dependent care.
Incrementally did that for a couple of years, I think.
The percentage that we contributed to help
To dependent care, yeah.
independent care.
Was that 2 years ago or last year?
Well, we bumped it a couple times to get it.
We did it twice, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then last year we didn't have any current revenue in 17.
But we've had this battle
Mm-hmm.
for 12 years, I know that I've been here, and it.
8 years since I've been
Yeah, and I know it's a constant battle to keep up and make sure that, you know, every year we delay it, yeah, it's just gonna be more painful in the future. So I think we've gotta do something, I just, definitely gotta look at more of the numbers.
Anyone else have anything for this evening then? Alright, well, thank you for spending your time with us and coming out and going over it with us. Anything else, Ken?
I don't think so.
Alright, let's do one.
Just that it's, what, 6 o'clock on Thursday?
Yeah, 6 o'clock on Thursday. Back here, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone have anything else for this evening then? Alright, not, we'll adjourn.